Tebow and Colin Kaepernick. So I saw a recent episode of ESPN where Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, two phenomenal ESPN personalities, because they're both so knowledgeable about sports, about human nature, and they just, listening to them every day is like a clinic. Both of them are brilliant. I can't decide which one is more brilliant. But it was interesting their take on this. And obviously, Max Kellerman is white, Caucasian, and Stephen A. Smith is African American. Max Kellerman started out the segment by saying that Tim Tebow, he would like to see Tim Tebow acknowledge Colin Kaepernick and use the platform that he has now to acknowledge what everybody knows in the world, that the NFL has treated Colin Kaepernick so poorly. I know there was a lawsuit. I believe it was resolved in the past. And now no team is even giving Colin Kaepernick a look. I mean, there was a controversy last year about his workout, and people on different sides about how that was handled. I think it was last year or the year before. But Max Kellerman said that it would be nice to have Tim Tebow acknowledge Colin Kaepernick's situation with the platform that he has now. But he also added that he doesn't think it's realistic to expect that players will give up opportunities they have now just because of other injustices. Stephen A. It was hard. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He seemed to kind of acknowledge that players are probably not going to give up opportunities. But he said that the main point that I saw him making was that, at least one of the main points, was that it's not enough to just say we're going to treat people equally now, because he said, minorities, especially, African Americans, are so far behind that, if you just start treating people equally now, they'll never catch up. And I'm not sure if it was the same podcast, the same episode or another one, but there was one where he said that black GMs African-American GMs would not be given the latitude to tank that, that their white counterparts would. I mean, that's another aspect of this discussion or another example. I mean, this frankly, is hard to sort out. Like, I think, what Stephen A. is saying, there's you could certainly, think that there's merit to it. And what Max Kellerman is saying, you could certainly think that there's merit to it. I don't know if the two views are complementary and compatible and could be integrated. I mean, how much do you try to undo the past, and for how long, versus how much do you just try to be fair from here on out? I mean, that's kind of a thought question. I really, I could kind of see it both ways. Like, sometimes you have to pick one over the other, or, at least maybe not 100%, maybe part of one or part of the other. I really don't know the answer. I mean, I think sometimes you have to undo the past, obviously, but to a certain degree, and sometimes you have to look towards the future more instead. How this gets resolved, I don't really know. Joe Rogan, it's kind of interesting because Joe Rogan, I'm just laughing because this whole thing is crazy trying to sort this all out. I'm laughing, more just out of frustration. Like, I really don't even know how to sort it out. But I think I'm doing the episode because I think it's important to bring these issues up for discussion. So Joe Rogan recently said that he feels that actually that white straight males are being basically canceled. That they're being afraid to speak out. Like, he's saying it's going to reach the point where the white males are going to be told to stay home because other people have been, their freedom has been imprisoned in the past. I mean, I don't know that things would ever go that far. And Joe Rogan received a lot of backlash for saying that, white straight males are disadvantaged. It's just such a, I think in today's society, if this is fair to say, you can have your own opinion, almost everybody feels disadvantaged. I think, obviously, like, some groups much more than others. I mean, like with all the police brutality, violence. I mean, there's a lot of good police, I think, so some of them might feel maligned. Like the police just got, excluded for the next 5 or 6 years from the parade in New York City, the Pride Parade. And Don Lemon, to his credit, I think, because I don't always agree with Don Lemon, but he said, no, don't ban the police. I mean, how do you find like a healing ground? And I'm not saying like it should be 50-50, but how do you find a resolution between like defund the police on one side and like, and not maligning the police and but having reform and being sensitive, obviously critically, to police brutality. And, we had the George Floyd, trial, and I'm not sure, what's going to come out of that. But, these are big, societal issues. I mean, in terms of Colin Kaepernick, I just think, the NFL, like they do all their, highlight their charity work. You can't be a charitable organization, if you mistreat your own members. And I think there's been an incredible level of arrogance on the owners, towards Colin Kaepernick, but towards like these larger issues writ large, if that's the right term, at large, as a society. Here's another one. Stephen A. Smith was also on CNN with Don Lemon last night talking about LeBron James, because LeBron James has been, such a good person and vocal advocate for racial, justice, and with these police issues as well. And Stephen A. Smith was taking him for task, for not confirming either way about whether he's been vaccinated. I mean, there was also the recent episode of LeBron where he broke protocol, but he wasn't suspended. Charles Barkley, said basically that in very colorful, four-color language, that the NBA is afraid, doesn't have the courage to suspend LeBron James. And Stephen A. Smith on the broadcast talked a little bit about, the protocol issue, but also talked about that, LeBron is giving too weak an answer, that he needs to have courage. But then Stephen A. Smith also shared about his own either situation or thoughts about vaccination and visiting the hospitals, the ICUs, and seeing that, there's greater representation of minorities with COVID, especially African American. And so this whole issues that society is undergoing now is just so complex. Like, I'm not saying complex in the sense that we shouldn't try to figure it out. We should try to figure it out. But I think we should be nuanced, like not take necessarily an axe where we should start with a, scalpel or whatever. I mean, that's just metaphor. I mean, sometimes you do need to use like, an axe or a chainsaw in terms of like metaphorically, the amount, the degree of societal change. But I think, sometimes, you push people away. Sometimes if there's too much at one time, that, people get pushed away. But sometimes if there's too little, then, people get hurt, even more than they have been. So I think it almost takes like the wisdom of Solomon to sort these issues out, but we have to not be afraid to try to do it. It's like, even if it's messy, like they say life is messy sometimes, democracy is messy, justice is messy. This is like a messiness that we can't afford not to confront. We have to, we have to try to confront it. And basically what I'm trying to do in this episode is just like bring out some of the issues and try to be, as balanced and fair as I could be, but just say that I don't have all the answers by any means. And, I welcome your thoughts.